Still don't believe him.
We should never believe him ever again.
Now I'm being truthful, and you still don't believe.
Boy who cries wolf. There's a moral to the story.
Yeah, he cries wolf daily.
On today's episode of the DLLS Dallas Stars Podcast, Sean Shapiro joins us as Luds, and I will talk about the two games that have been played this week, San Jose and Washington. We'll break down some of the good and the bad of it. Plus, we'll get Sean's 2 cents of Jake Oettinger's big contract extension. We have some NHL news and notes that we may or may not get to. And it's Luddy's Damn Discord Channel Friday. Let's get it going right now. October 18th. This is the DLLS Dallas Stars Podcast. And yeah, look at that photo. It's a rematch coming up tomorrow. We'll get into that as the Oilers are in town to finish off this 3-game week. More importantly, 6 games in 9.5 days, as I heard Razor say on the ticket this morning, because it's an afternoon game tomorrow. So we said 6 and 10 to start the year. 6 and 9.5. That is a heck of a schedule. Alongside Craig Ludwig and Sean Shapiro, I'm Owen Newkirk. Oh, look, we have Hey, Luds and Owen already. Hello. And, of course, our producer, John Anderson. No whiskey today, Andrew said. No, everybody.
No, it's under the table.
It's there. It's
Luds
usually
has it in the bottom
hidden in the back in case we don't need it.
It's an afternoon show. I didn't want to throw it out.
Yeah, the sun's still out. Maybe wait till it is Friday, though, and we have had some drinking on Fridays before.
It's always Friday.
Yeah, it is indeed. All right. Sean, nice to see you. We have you on for tomorrow's pregame and postgame show with the Oilers. Before we get into that, though, I think we should talk about the week that was so far, and San Jose and Washington, as the Stars won their first 4 games of the regular season, including a shootout win over the Sharks, and then they picked up their first loss of the campaign last night in D.C., a game which I thought really interestingly, Pete DeBoer said afterwards, that was a very winnable hockey game. I don't think Dallas played particularly well, and maybe, Sean, they haven't played that well yet. But that was definitely a winnable hockey game.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote about this today over at our website, all DLLS, and they're a team that's 4-1 right now. They have the best record in the Central Division. At the same time, there's some flaws, and you go through and you look at. I saw one of the things that I thought was kind of funny last night was watching all the overreaction to one loss, because all of a sudden one loss became the reason for every single fan and everything to kind of tell us why the Stars are doomed this year. And yes, you can point out the power plays. Exactly. Yes.
What was that?
That would be an audio drop from the phenomenal film Chicken Little, Owen.
Oh, is that what that was?
The sky is falling.
Okay, now I understand. It says sky is falling. The first I just heard this big Okay, sorry to derail the show. Please, Sean, continue.
So yeah, the power play is 1 for 17 right now. The Stars are getting outchanced by opponents when it comes to quality and everything like that. It's, if you want to kind of get all wrapped in that, you can, but they played 5 games, right? So we want to talk about how they can improve, and Luds has brought this up before about how, you know what, the coaches and the players, they know more than they know very well that this is not the level that is going to get them to their ultimate goal at the end of the year. So from a Stars perspective, how do you build from this and grow on this? And also, I like to use the NFL example as a comparison, because to overreact to 5 games in an NHL season would be like saying after one NFL game, the season's over, we're done. And so,
which happens in Cowboy country.
Well, but in Cowboys country, they
overreact to everything, right?
Yes, but in an NFL world, right, you would still be like, all right, that was game 1. We have a couple more weeks to figure this out.
You would hope that rational, sane people would have that reaction.
Yeah, and I think the Stars yesterday, it was a learning point. It was a point of, Pete DeBoer talked about it as a winnable game. And you know how they would have won that game? If they did some really simple things well. There's that's the biggest thing. it's not. I don't think the Washington Capitals necessarily went out and beat them yesterday. I think don't take any credit away from Washington, but at the same time, like there's a lot of, and we're going to talk more about it on the show about a certain area of the ice, but there's so much of, if the Stars did simple things the right way last night, they win that game, and they just and they didn't do that, and now you just kind of have to use that as a learning point. And I trust that Pete DeBoer and the Stars coaching staff and the players know that. Like we talked all about after game 3, I think it was, where Tyler Seguin was calling them out to be better and everything like that. I mean, the players and team have been calling themselves out before anyone else has. So I'm not overly worried about that. I think it's just the first real, like, oh, this is a moment you have to use that and apply. So the game tomorrow against Edmonton is because everyone at this time of year is dealing with, the NHL is effectively a race to figure out your problems. And that's what they're doing.
Yeah, I think that this is the time coaches don't want to play 6 games in 9.5 days, because they want to be able to address some of the things that are going on. And, you know, you could go back to game 1, 2, 3, and 4 and say these things were all there, and they're still there, but they were still winning. So the urgency, like I talked about urgency before, about on the power play, their game needs to have urgency now. And again, the sky is not falling, and they're sitting in a good spot. The other side is that I think, oh yeah, there we go, Chicken Little. So that's taken over for the new Pavelski. Is that what the deal is, or can we get them both going?
Early, got it.
There we go.
Early
Get them
today.
going off until they lose their next game.
Yeah. But I mean, the whole thing is here, they're not playing their game, and I think that there could be a possibility that, you know, they came off of last year, and yes, they had a great playoffs and didn't get to where they wanted to go, but they had a great year. You can't just start the season and think you're going to pick up right there. You got to put the work back in. And, you know, some of the things that I saw this morning, just watching the game back, it's kind of the same things we've seen in 1, 2, 3, and 4. And they're starting to creep into where a team like that last night, they played more of a blue collar style, and there was more traffic in front of the net compared to what Dallas did. And Dallas only found a way to score a couple of goals. They score, 3 goals, 2 of them just mainly because your goaltender can't see the puck. So, and I think you can hear the tone in the head coach's voice in postgame. It's starting to change to where he understands, and I think you give him a little rope in the beginning, because again, we know that all the things that I just said, but now it's lingering along a little bit too much, and it's not a stink or a stank. It's not that bad, but it's lingering as far as the coaches on. They want them to be perfect early, and now the players have to, and they I think they will. They got to start holding themselves accountable for playing a little bit harder. In my opinion, they got to play a little bit dirtier.
Oh, I love the fact that you segue this beautifully into our Pete DeBoer audio and video that we have. And we're going to do that after a super chat. Look at that. Ardell, 5 and 4. That's the Lundqvist and Heiskanen from Ardell. How much of what ails the power play can we attribute to the lack of skating at the blue line? Do we lack a crab walker and penetrator to make the D move more? Should we answer him right now, or should we wait? Because we're going to talk about the power play after these clips. Let's do that.
You're driving the bus.
Hang on, Ardell. Go ahead, John. This is Pete DeBoer before or after the game on Tuesday night against the San Jose Sharks, the one the Stars won in a shootout. And then, well, let's play that one first.
Is the power play harder to get ready for when you're starting a season, or the penalty kill?
I don't know. I mean, the power play's harder to get ready for the start of the season when, Jason Robertson doesn't play and Wyatt Johnson doesn't play. So, we'll talk about the power play. Give us 10 games, and then we can talk about the power play.
So that was Pete DeBoer after the win over San Jose, when the Stars had scored 1 power play goal in their first 4 games. And he said, I'm not really interested in having that conversation just yet. But we didn't have to wait to 10 games, because the very next game, last night, post-game after the Capitals loss, here's what he said.
We're 5 games in now. We had some guys miss some extended periods in training camp. And that's an excuse for a couple games for your power play not clicking. But it's time to execute. We gotta get a power play goal in a game like that.
What do you think is missing on the power play?
I just think execution. And like I said, we had 3 key guys on the power play miss significant time. So you give them a little bit of runway here, but it's time to start executing now.
And Sean, he said this about 5-on-5 as well as 5-on-4 play, or 6-on-5, or 4-on-3, or 5-on-3. The Stars scored, think about this, 2 goals in a win against Seattle because they had a shutout. They scored 2 goals plus a shootout goal against the San Jose Sharks, arguably not one of the best defensive teams in the NHL. They then scored 2 goals against the Washington Capitals, and that is not the kind of characteristic of a Pete DeBoer 4-line deep offensive team. They have not been just outscoring their problems over the last couple of games.
Yeah, and let me offer this theory on how I think Pete DeBoer, in his head, and I think you'll understand once I lay this out, I don't think he was hoping for the Stars to lose a game, but as a coach, it's a lot easier to teach from a loss at times, right? Like when you're winning games and you're working with players and everything like that, when you're winning, you can say, hey, we got to be better, we got to be better. But at the end of the day, that's still a win on the scoreboard. It's still a win in the standings. And from Pete DeBoer's perspective, you don't want to have to lose a game to teach. But I do think losses at times can be a tool that coaches kind of rely on to kind of improve teams. And Luds, I'm kind of curious of your perspective on this as a player who's dealt with this. Like, to me, this is one of those things where hearing Pete DeBoer's comments last night, those are ones that he was probably ready to give the last 2 games, but because the Stars were ahead on the scoreboard, he just put them in the back pocket until it finally came back to bite him and cost him a win.
Sean, it's a completely different approaching style with Pete and Ken Hitchcock. I mean, because Hitch,
Yeah.
we could be on a 9-game run and we could play 1 bad period and he would come in and rip us, and because he never wanted it to slip. And again, players are different, and our group could handle that. And so Pete DeBoer knows his players better than anybody else out here listening and talking. And he knows how to handle his players. He knows how to get to his players, what gets their attention. And would everything be a little bit different? I mean, there's some breathing room here, but what would have happened if Colorado and Edmonton and Nashville wouldn't have had the starts that they're having right now? Would the tone be different? Because now all of a sudden everything is close. So good thing is they built themselves a little bit of a buffer and they can go through this little process, but it's not a light switch either, and there is a chance, I don't know, but there's a chance they could go 3 for 6 tomorrow on the power play and get that part of the game clicking. But it's not just the power play. Again, you've got a good penalty killing group because of, in my opinion, two things. Your 4th line guys that are good penalty killers have found a role and they're doing a good job at it, and goaltending. And it's the power play and 5-on-5. 5-on-5 for me, again, they've got to be a little bit more direct for me. And you're not just going to shoot from the perimeter and score these goals. And I'm sure, Sean, I'm sure you've got some kind of analytics. Is there something that will show, where the goals are scored? And I know that I've seen all those, and they can show you the areas that the goals are scored right now and where bodies are on different shots. And they're shooting from the perimeter probably a little bit more. Like, again, Jason's goal last night. Robo's goal last night is he fought for position and he put the puck in the net, which is what, talked about that. And if you happen to be watching, this is what the position was. If you're not, what we've got the clips that I was looking for is where the Dallas Stars players were on the inside of the Washington Capital players, because it's reverse in a couple goals that the Caps scored. But here, Robo and Hintz both have position. They spun off, and now it's just them and the goaltender, and this one results in a goal. There's other examples that we had from both clubs where it was different.
It sounds like Sean, that he's looking for a heat map or something, or a shot chart or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Come on, numbers, man. Show me what you got. But in all
could've...
seriousness, Luddy said after the game last night in our post game that the power play needed urgency, and I feel like that's their 5-on-5 game as well. Look, it's great that they're 4-1, and we should be happy that they've banked 8 points out of a possible 10 in their first 5 games. But we all see that this is not anywhere near the level that we expect from the Stars or a team that's going to compete in the playoffs. But Sean, you said at the start, it's okay because everybody else is going through these pains as well. It's way better to be 4-1 and going through problems than it is to be 1-4, or in Nashville's case, winless after the first 4 or 5 games.
Yeah, and like I look back at that game last night too, and urgency and a lack of urgency to being hesitant. That to me is like the thing that I looked at yesterday was, so you look at the Blackwell goal that's shorthanded, right? That's a player in a shorthanded situation taking a little bit of risk to jump on a play to go score a goal. Like if you take a look at kind of right before the Beck makes the play to get it out of the zone, he's already kind of jumping that route a little bit. And if the Capitals guy at the blue line, I'm forgetting who it was, if he's able to corral that puck, Blackwell is way out of play, and you've got the guy who's going to eventually be the all-time leading goal scorer standing all alone over there. So but that was about the only, like, yes, Jason Robertson fought for a goal last night, but I watched that game last night. I watched it back. It was hard to find plays in that game for me where the Stars looked urgent at all in most plays at all. Like, it was very much we're just going to sit and see what Washington's brings to us. And they never really took the game to the Capitals. And I think that can be a way to play at times, but it felt very much like the Stars. That's a style of game where if you're playing the second game of a back-to-back, you're playing, like, that's when you play that game. To me, that was the wrong time to play that style of game. And I'm sure Pete DeBoer and his staff talked about, okay, why did they do that? I'm sure he talked to the leadership group about it, like, hey, why do we do that? And I'm sure that was a conversation that was had today in the Stars offices in that locker room about, okay, how do we avoid doing that in that game next? Because there is a time to play that game, but it certainly wasn't last night.
I also think that inside that coaching staff was looking for a poor game, because you can get the players' attention more after a game like that than you can, regardless of how they won their previous 3, 4, 5 games, whatever it may be. It's hard to get their attention. But when you have a game like that, it's like, okay, now we can start to turn the screws a little bit. And as much as they can in this kind of a schedule, again, that's tough. So it ends up being more conversation and video than anything else, because you don't have a ton of time. And especially for the power play stuff, it wouldn't surprise me. You know, I had said last night I didn't expect them to have anybody on the ice today. I thought this would be a day off for rest and stuff like that. But maybe they took the power play and went out there. But I have no idea what their off day was today.
Yeah, and by the way, our buddy Sam, who would ordinarily be covering practice, is under the weather. He missed last night's show. He's missing today's. So Sam, we hope you feel well and get better soon. But he also he'll be all right. He'll be okay in the end. We'll hold the fort down for him until he gets back on our show. That being said, yeah, I haven't seen, because we had to be here for this, so it kind of coincided with practice today. I haven't seen anybody reporting from Frisco. I'm wondering if the entire media contingent, including ourselves, took the option. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. But let's talk more about the net front and what is going on in our next segment here on the DLS Dallas Stars podcast.
I wish I could honor Sam and sing, but I'm not going to do that today. But I'm going to tell you about Empire today. Quick personal story. I can tell you how awful it is to install floors by yourself. I've done it and tried. You end up finding multiple mistakes later. You end up struggling with it. And you think you could do it to save some money, when, you know what? Sometimes it might just be best to go with professionals. And that's what Empire today is. They are the professionals when it comes to flooring. I've heard you guys rave about the floor in the other studio than you're in right now, right? I believe they installed the floors in the main studio, the floors in the main studio, as opposed to the one you guys are right now. And if you go to Empire today, you will get the best deal on, not the best deal on floors, you will get the fairest deal on floors. Some guys might be more expensive, some guys might be less, but Empire today is going to give you the fair price, and you're going to be really happy with the professional work they do. You go there today with their virtual floor designer, you're going to find the right fit. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code DLLS. Restrictions apply. See Empire today/DLLS for details.
Let's talk about Shady Rays. Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. And they have hundreds of options to choose from, so you're bound to find the perfect pair to match your style. My pair, well, it's in my car right now. And that way, no matter where I'm going with all the bright sunshine, which we love in Dallas, you get something to protect your eyes. And the polarized lenses are great for all those shiny reflections off other people's windshields, back glass, whatever Luddy's big polished up chrome fenders on his Harley.
My pair is still in the warehouse.
Yeah, well, we'll have to find it at some point. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out our best deal of the season. Head to shadyrays.com. Use the code DLLS for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. All right, let's get into this talk about NetFront a little bit more. We have some photos that Luds wants to go over with everybody. So if you're listening, he'll do his best to describe it with his words, but he also is using pictures for those watching on our YouTube stream. So, Luddy, take it away. What are you seeing that we want to talk about today that is something the Stars can do better?
Well, I think the best way to sum it up is perimeter play versus interior play. In other words, get on the inside of the dots. We always talk about the house and taking away the vision of the goaltenders. I mean, the goaltenders are good in this league, and if they're not going to be able to see pucks, it's a little bit tougher. But when they can see them, they can make the save. So what we've got a couple clips that are going to show, and they're just still shots. We're trying to run them one after another and just show you where they were in their progression as far as where the Caps would be playing and where the Stars would be playing. So
you want the Duchesne? Want to do the Duchesne?
Yeah, let's do
first?
Duchesne first.
Okay, here's the first.
So there was an incident last night in a play, and it's in the first period. Matt Duchesne comes in on the left side of the ice. The puck is on the right side of the ice, going up to Miro Heiskanen high on his right point. Duchesne starts on the inside of the circle on the left, and then he proceeds to go down. And instead of where there was an area here just below the hash marks, I thought he should have come to the front of the net. But Matt doesn't do that. What he does is he circles around the back of the net. Now, all of a sudden, there's nobody in front. The closest guy is out above the tops of the hash marks. And so for a goaltender, it's just a lot easier to pick that puck up. So there's really isn't, I don't consider this a dangerous scoring opportunity. Even it's Miro shooting the puck from there.
Now, as a forward in beer league qualifier here, going behind the net does give him a little bit of shelter for puck possession if it gets rimmed down around the outside. But one thing I always find is anytime I would go behind the net, if there's a turnover, I'm completely stranded as far away from getting back in my own zone as I can versus the front of the net where you feel like you're still somewhat connected with their defenseman.
The good news is there's two of your forwards above you. So it's okay to have one forward down there. But you got four guys above the play. And I don't disagree with you at all. I mean, and Matt Duchesne, I'm not saying that Matt Duchesne is the guy that's going to go in and plow into guys in front of the net, but again, there needs to be somebody with some net presence here. And Duchesne is a great playmaker. Yeah. He makes plays. If that puck goes down there, he probably makes a good play, but it isn't. And you have to read it. I think you have to be able. He could make that same play if earlier he would have cut to the front of the net, and if it doesn't happen, then he can spin off to the back. But when when the guy at the point's under pressure, he's not going to make this big fancy play. He's going to end up throwing it to net. And I think we got another one.
Hold on, Sean's got to jump in here.
Can we put the other one back up real quick? Just because there's one other thing too. Just as, John, I don't know if we can put that one back up.
He's trying to find the right button. He's got to find the right button.
You're looking for Duchesne, Sean?
Yes.
Yeah, Duchesne, the one you just had up. So right there, so the Washington defender in front of that, you can see how his head is pivoted and shifted, right? Like the Washington defender is actually expecting a battle, right? Like you see how the defender's looking, you see his eye of vision, he's looking to his right.
Are you talking about the guy standing at the top of the crease?
Yes, top of the crease.
Yep.
Like you've got a spot where even the other team expects this, even the defending player is expecting the Stars to do the right thing there. And just from a defensive perspective, when all of a sudden he basically bails out and does that, it makes the defender's life that much easier. And that's something that just, to me, from one of the biggest jobs of an offense in the NHL, and Luds knows this really well, is it's to score goals, but it's also to make defenders' life as difficult as possible. And even if you're not scoring and everything like that, you want to at least make it hard to go to. You want to make it, but each time you go over the boards, make it difficult. And this is a play where, for this Washington defender, all right, life gets easier here, and you get a sigh of relief there. So
go back to the second one for a second, John. Sean, if you notice this, the Washington goalie, Charlie Lindgren, on that one, because I think, is that Wyatt Johnston?
I'm trying to figure out who it is, too. Right-handed shot, it might be.
I think it's Wyatt. And see how Lindgren is leaning to try to see around. That position is good because he's down just below the hash mark, and he's forcing the goalie to try to find and track the puck from a non-comfortable stance, right?
But it's where he goes after this, like the next shot.
Then the next clip, the next picture, the still shot that goes to where Duchesne's behind the net. Now Wyatt is up into the circle, and look at how the goalie now is not, Lindgren doesn't have to lean or look. And for you're our goalie expert, that's a lot easier for a tender to not have to look around.
Yeah, I mean you don't need to be a goalie expert to know that one. It's a lot easier to stand up straight and look at something than try to have to move your body around and work to get the angle and everything like that. And Lindgren is a guy too, where if there's a playbook or whatever, he's 6'1". That's the thing. Like he's a goalie who, Jake Oettinger, for example, can look over a lot of screens. He's 6'6". He can look over a lot of screens. There's screens that he can look over. Charlie Lindgren is not typically able to do that. Like, you watch games that Washington plays, one of the biggest emphases teams have against Lindgren is to get traffic in front of him, and that goes for all goalies. But for a goalie that is quote unquote shorter by the nature of the position, there's only one goalie in the NHL under 6 foot. It is. If you can make them basically effectively, it takes their center of gravity out too. So think about it this way. And so for people who, I'm moving my hands and I realize I have to explain this audio wise for people on the podcast platform, but for a bigger goalie fighting through screens, a lot of the times looking through it, you're still keeping your same center because you're just looking over. Your head is there. But when you're shorter and you're looking through and you have to kind of bob and weave, like my head is going to, like my head is moving left and right now. That's an extra millisecond of focus loss. That's an extra millisecond of lost puck tracking. And that is something that you should be trying to take away from all goaltenders, but especially guys like of Charlie Lindgren's height, where they are playing with the disadvantage compared to some of the monstrous humans that play this position.
Well, Sean, Luddy actually dug up a couple of still shots of last night's second and third goals by the Capitals, specifically so we could talk to you about it. John, let's go to the first one. This was the second goal. This is Dylan Strome shooting at the point. And look, there are three guys in front of Casey DeSmith, almost four if you count Harley off to the right. But that's Miro, Protas, and I think that was Ovechkin in front of him.
It was.
And, it is. Well, this is
talk
actually,
us through this. What you see?
This is a perfect illustration of the point I was just making, because Casey DeSmith is actually shorter than is shorter than Lindgren. DeSmith, I believe, is at 6 foot, and this is a play where you see DeSmith is effectively having to. Now, this would be a tough screen for any goalie with that many guys, but if you imagine Jake Oettinger in this spot, using this image in front of us, like Jake Oettinger you could pop another goalie mask on top of Casey DeSmith's head, and that's how much taller Jake Oettinger is than Casey DeSmith.
And so by the way, Protas is a monster human being. He's a big man.
He's huge. He's huge. And so the thing that DeSmith is there's basically DeSmith is kind of caught. And first off, he can't see the puck and he can't track it. And so then this now moves into part two of the equation you have to make as a goalie. And this is, I blame the defense for the screen and this, but this is the spot where I would have liked to see DeSmith drift back a little bit. Because where you see where DeSmith's feet are, he's not all the way out to the top of his crease, but he's still pretty high at the top of his crease. One of the things, and it was actually Henrik Lundqvist, who was the first goalie who really kind of made this a big thing, was Lundqvist used to play much deeper in his crease, and a lot of people have copied it. But Lundqvist would play deeper in his crease because of that extra split second you get to read pucks through traffic and off deflections and stuff like that. So, and DeSmith normally does that, but this is a play where he didn't. This is one where I'd like to see, when there's this much traffic and your defenders have put you in this bad spot, I would like to see DeSmith about a foot back deeper in his crease. And I know that might go against some typical conventional thinking of like, oh, well, I'm giving up more space. But you're also giving yourself more time for the read and to get to potentially read that, because DeSmith never saw this puck. This is, if I remember watching this one back, he never saw this one and it goes through. By doing that, he gives himself a little bit more space. So, yes, the defenders are. To me, it's on the defenders here for how they put him in this position. But I also think the goalie has to be a player too and adjust to a bad situation here. And this is where DeSmith needs to take a step back, give himself a little bit more of that time to read this, because otherwise you get what happened.
Well, Sean, and you made a comment about the other defenseman. And the reason I put this on here is because not only are there two guys in front of the net, but when there's two of the opponents in front of the net, it brings two more defenders in front of the net. And now all of a sudden there's four bodies almost that you have to look through. So again, it brings more people to the party, makes it more difficult on the goaltender. And the other thing is I've mentioned the word perspective before about from the goalie's eyes. Sometimes we say, how did he miss that? Well, that's a clear look at what Casey DeSmith has to look through, is that traffic right there.
Let's go to the other one real quick. This is the third goal, which turned out to be the game winner, and that's Taylor Radish that has the puck. He's standing at the point and he's about to shoot. And this time there are 4 guys in the lane, almost a fifth, because I believe that's Wyatt Johnston off to the right, but it's Lyubushkin and Harley with Dowd. And I believe, I'm trying to see who that is. Is that McMichael, 22?
I believe that's McMichael, yeah.
And Radish is the one that fires it from the blue line. And this one, DeSmith didn't see it either. In fact, I think he even had less of a chance of picking this one up than the first one. Luddy, from a defensive standpoint, you see this from the goalie's perspective. What are your first thoughts?
Well, my first thoughts is if you were able to watch it live, and what happened is the defenseman, and this is my pet peeve of mine, when people are coming to the front of the net as a defenseman, you can go out, you can leave the front of the net, and you can meet them. And you can kind of give them a little resistance to get to the front of the net. We don't. We just go and we set up in front of the net and say, okay, come up here and we're going to battle from here. And the way that players are forced now and the speed that players have, in other words, Dallas would have a player heading out there to Radish, and he's only got a split second to get that puck away. Well, if you can hold people up outside of the crease, out to the right of DeSmith here, just for a second, there's an opportunity for that puck to probably get there quicker to Casey that he can see. It's just more about meeting him out there instead of bringing it and letting him get in front. And next thing you know, you got you got 500-600 pounds you got to look through here.
And this play too with Johnston. It was, I'm not calling it an effort thing. I'm actually just calling it this was at the end of a 76-second shift for Wyatt Johnston. This is not an excuse. This is just a fact for me to put on this. This was a play where, and we saw the Stars took a lot of long shifts as a whole team last night. You watch this play and you watch Johnston on that play. He basically, you can see the legs are gone and you see him effectively make the decision to try to conserve energy. And whether that's the right or wrong decision, that's something that I'll throw that question to you, Luds. I don't know. I think it's the wrong decision. I think it's one where you kind of try to burn through for a couple more seconds and then keep going, but I'll throw it to Luds there in a second. And that to me, I think is another important thing comes into play. Also, if you're better at winning those battles in front of your net, you're not spending 76 seconds on the ice on a shift too. So it's your own doing as well.
Sean, when you talk about 76 seconds, as you noticed, if you were able to see, the goaltenders at this ice, the closest bench has got red jerseys on it, which means it's the second period. Come off before you're tired. And it's not always that easy.
Sometimes you get stuck.
Yeah, sometimes you get stuck out there, and then you just have to deal with it. But you have a clock in your head, and you know when you're at 30, 45 seconds or so. And it's usually what it is. There's an offensive rush that goes the other way, and you kind of want to hang with the rush instead of getting off and probably get another fresh player or 2 fresh players out there. So you hang in there, you think there's going to be an opportunity. Next thing you know, it turns over, and then you spend another 20 to 30 seconds in your end because you're tired.
We're going to have a lot more to talk about that on our pregame show tomorrow when the Stars play the Edmonton Oilers. We'll talk a little bit about the Oilers next. And then, of course, Sean's 2 cents here on the DLLS Dallas Stars Podcast. But first, we talk about HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Make this fall the tastiest season ever. You can not only get pre-portioned meals, you can get farm-fresh produce and easy autumn-inspired recipes delivered right to your door with HelloFresh. You can whip up restaurant-style meals in your own kitchen without the high price tag of takeout and in less time than it takes to get delivery. And HelloFresh has tons of options for whatever you're craving. You can choose from a changing menu of over 50 recipes each week, plus take your pick of over 100 market add-on items like desserts, breakfast, and snacks. Get 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/free stars. See the code at the bottom of our screen. Applied across 7 boxes. New subscribers only, varies by plan. That's 10 free HelloFresh meals just by going to HelloFresh.com/free stars. HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Now we need to talk about Game Time. Look, we all are big sports fans. Otherwise, we wouldn't be talking about the Dallas Stars every single day. And we want to get our best opportunity to see live sports, concerts, theater, comedy shows, you name it. Well, you need to use Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. One of the great aspects is you can get seat view, which means as you're looking, you can actually get a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you purchase. And they always have the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you with 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code DLLS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code DLLS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right. Well, we have to talk about the Edmonton Oilers because
yes, let's talk about the Edmonton Oilers.
We put the Edmonton Oilers on our thumbnail today and our headline. If we don't talk about it, then our producer has to go change it all because we advertised a show and didn't talk about it at all.
This is all accurate.
But also, they're playing the Oilers tomorrow. The Oilers, Sean, started off horribly. They lost their first 3. And boy, if you thought the Stars fans were upset after losing 1 game after winning the first 4, boy, was Oil Country in a tizzy about them getting off to just a dreadful start, not looking good. But then they've won 2 in a row, including at Nashville, who's lost 4 in a row to start the year, by the way. Steven Stamkos hasn't scored yet, although he hit a really big post against the Stars on 6-on-5. So is this as hyped up of a rematch for the Stars as it should be for a Saturday afternoon game at the end of 6 games in less than 10 full days?
For the Stars as a team, I think fan perspective, it's a big one. Like, this is the team that knocked them out of the playoffs and everything. But I think from a Stars team perspective, maybe you find a little bit, but to me, everything is right now more, especially in the regular season, things are more focused on figuring everything else, figuring yourself out. And that's I think the bigger thought process for the Stars will be, how do we do what Luds talked about earlier? How do we get to the front of the net? How do we keep people away from the front? How do we do all of that? And I don't think, I think it's a good matchup for all of us to watch, but I don't think it's something that drives the Stars to do something any different or anything like that on October 19th. That's kind of my view on that. I don't know, Luds, you would have a better experience for me as a player. Just like, I don't know about, I'll throw it to you on that.
Not speaking from a player's side, but speaking from like the coaching side of things and the staff, I think they're excited that this team is in town right now because of all the reasons that we've talked about in the last 40 minutes. This team has the capability, led by 97, to put up 5 goals tomorrow. And if their goaltender plays well, and they're going to see a lot of Zach Hyman in the face of Otter. I'm assuming Otter's playing tomorrow. There's going to be the trap. Everything that we talked about, they're going to see part of that. And when you look at their lineup, it's not a team that's going to play on the outside. They're going to try to play in the middle when you get down to the offensive zone. So I think right now the messages that Pete wants his team to play better, and I'm talking more 5-on-5 right now, are going to be front and center tomorrow. And they're going to have to battle that. And we talk about Connor McDavid. I watch when Connor plays, he goes to the front of the net. He's not a soft player. I mean, it's not like he plays on the perimeter and scores all of his goals. Yeah, he uses his speed, but he will generally cut to the front of the net. So I just think that I don't even think you have to remind these guys. You don't have to talk to them. They know what happened last year. That's still in their heads. Hopefully they're all looking forward to this game tomorrow to say the wrong team won, and take it that way. So, and that may be, if they come out of this game tomorrow with a win, it necessarily doesn't have to be a win, I guess, but play the right way, and they should have won the game kind of thing. I think that takes them to the next step where the coaching staff believes that this club can go.
I mean, the thing for me is that I wonder if tomorrow would have been a bit of a chance for a trap game, even with all the dramatic storylines of a rematch against the Oilers for the first time since losing in the conference final. Because if Dallas had won last night against Washington, playing the way they did, and somehow had found a way to win, they'd be like, hey, we're 5-0. We have the best start in hockey. We're doing fine. Now, after the loss and some of those things creeping in, maybe that'll help them sort of focus a little bit, especially knowing that they are really under the gauntlet of playing a lot of games in a short amount of time to start the year. They haven't had practice time since training camp. And so I think that's going to be a good thing. But I also don't think that this is the end all of the season, right?
See,
this is one game.
I will say this is a team that eliminated you from getting to where you needed to be to accomplish what you wanted to accomplish. That's number one. Number two is they got the best player on the planet coming in tomorrow. Is he playing his best? Maybe he's starting to. You have to be concerned about that. I mean, regardless if you're 4-0 or 5-0 and you're at home, the last place you want to get embarrassed by a team is at home, regardless of who it is.
And I'm just going to say this because I just took a look at the chat, and I'm going to make people happy by saying this. I'm the person that picked Edmonton to win the Stanley Cup out of all of this right now. So it's the
we're all homers over on this side.
It's a matchup of the two teams we picked to. It's a matchup of teams that we all picked to win the Stanley Cup. So that's a Stanley Cup preview. No, sorry, it's a Western Conference preview by our math. So. To answer Joe Mama's question, by the way, also, yes, I'm going on Edmonton Sports Talk in about 45 minutes after we finish this show to talk Stars hockey with the Oilers people up there as well. So
that's 50% of our show, because I did one with Edmonton this morning. It just shows you how hockey crazy they are up in Alberta.
Yes.
Shows me that you guys aren't loyal.
Why? Because we talked to the Edmonton guys?
I don't talk to them guys.
You just didn't answer your phone.
Don't. I didn't?
Well, I don't know. I'm just saying maybe they actually did want. Here we go. Oh, it's back to Joe Mama again. I thought it was another one.
Yeah, that was the same comment.
Same comment. Speaking of Jake Oettinger, Sean, it's time for your 2 cents. He didn't play yesterday, and I really thought that was an interesting thought that you said, Luds, was after the big deal, and I want to get all your thoughts about the contract, but that Luds goes, I love that he wasn't playing last night after that. Do you like that? To sort of have that not be in the middle of a distraction, or was this just a coincidence because they were always planning on playing Jake against Edmonton and playing Casey yesterday?
I think it's more so the second one, where I think they were always planning on playing Oettinger against Edmonton. I think it's more so that. I also think this kind of with how the deal kind of came out and everything. I know it was officially finalized to the public yesterday, but Jake Oettinger has effectively knew the deal was going to get done the day before already. So that's kind of, so I don't mind it. I mean, you avoid disaster if if he has a bad game right after you sign it or whatever, but I don't think it should have been a reason to impact whether you played him or not. I said a lot about what I thought about the deal yesterday when we did our emergency pod with Luds and Sam and I, and good luck. I mean, it was the last thing Sam did before he got struck down by his illness. So thanks to Sam for battling
Sam was
through.
Hurt by the emergency pod.
I know. Yeah. Sam went from emergency pod to emergency room. So
wow.
HIPAA, Sean, HIPAA.
I don't know what Sam's whatever. I think with Oettinger, there was the great point that Sam did bring up the other day, how Pete doesn't let Oettinger have a choice of games because he would say he would want to play them all. But I do know Oettinger is one of those guys who drives. He is the one person who, I did talk about, hey, I don't know from a team perspective how much they worry about playing the Oilers. They're focused on themselves. But Oettinger is a guy who fuels on big moments, playing against the haters, for lack of a better word. He's someone who he uses past lights against him. He knows that Stuart Skinner outplayed him in the playoffs last year. He knows that he's going to be judged for that, and he gets a chance to go and outplay Stuart Skinner tomorrow. I'm assuming Stuart Skinner starts. I don't know for sure, but that is
he is. It's actually Jack Michaels, who's the TV play-by-play guy on Sportsnet for the Oilers, did confirm that at practice that Skinner's going to play tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. So he gets a chance to go out play Jeff Skinner tomorrow, and I know
Stuart
whatever
and Jeff. They're both on the team now. We have Skinner and Skinner, but different numbers.
Oh, do they both have? Do they do the letter on
in
front of the Skinner? Do they do that,
so,
or do they just leave?
If you believe Daily Faceoff's line combinations, they actually have J. Skinner for Jeff Skinner.
Okay.
And do they have it for the goalie as well? Nope, just regular Skinner. So maybe Jeff gets the J on it. We'll have to find out tomorrow at the AAC. We'll take a look for sure.
Yeah.
These are the important issues that need to be figured out.
This goes under the category of useless information.
Well, you had that question the other day. Remember Smith versus Smith, and they both wore number 2.
All I asked was, has it ever happened in history, do you think, with the same names, different teams?
I do. I mean, well, on one thing from a
he would
Smith
know if anybody did.
No, but no, from a Will Smith perspective, he is the him wearing number 2 this year, he is the first player forward to ever actually wear number 2 regularly in NHL history. Number 2 has been a defenseman number forever. So Will Smith is the there's been instances where a player has worn number 2 like as a jersey got ripped and they had to switch mid-game or something like that. But Will Smith is the first forward that has worn number 2 regularly in the NHL. So that's
if you're a
more you know.
traditionalist, you don't like that. If you're more new age,
Will Smith, yeah.
you're all good.
So Will Smith was, because I watched him a lot when he was with the National Team Development Program, and it was one of the times you'd go watch that team play, and he would be in on the forecheck and everything. And after the first 4 or 5 games, you got used to it, but throughout the games, you keep wondering. It's like, man, they really activate their D deep into the zone. Like that would be like your first. That would be like your first thought. Like because Will Smith would be in on the forecheck, and you're like, man, their D really get in on the zone, and then you're like, oh, that's a forward. So
It's confusing.
Oh, and I did just pull up. We have access to this USA Today portal of images from photographers at the games, and I did just pull up Oilers jerseys from the other night of Jeff Skinner and Stuart Skinner.
Boy.
And both just say Skinner on them.
Okay, so maybe they've got that wrong, or it's just something that the
I think that's
website
just a
added.
daily
Like I
face-off
said,
thing.
useless information.
Useless information, but our producer's on top of it. Well done, John.
Thank you.
Up next, it's time to go back. We have both guys that have done the damn Discord, but we're going to go back to Luddy as he will do his Friday damn Discord channel next on the DLLS Dallas Stars Podcast.
well, speaking of the Dallas Stars diehard, you should become one, because this next segment, Luds is going to blow your mind with wonderful answers to your questions, and the only way you can get those questions to Luds is by becoming a diehard. How do you become a diehard? Pretty easy. You go sign up. Simple. You pay your yearly fee. You get a free shirt every single year, and you get to join a great community of sports fans that are like-minded like you that just want to talk sports, but they also might want to talk barbecue. They might want to talk movies. Go join the damn Discord. You get all that. You get the shirt. It's a great investment. And as I like to pitch on here, and it's the reason they keep inviting me back, what other place in Dallas is putting this much of investment in Stars hockey? Become a diehard.
I'm still laughing because you switched back to my camera and I was in the middle of trying to stifle a yawn. I had the worst looking face. So I'm sure that'll be.
Well, you had stuff coming up that you had to say.
Yes,
so.
I do. But I'm sure that'll be a great segment for Previously next week. All City National NHL show What Chaos has a new line of merch with Buffalo-based hockey fashion label Dishin. You can go to justdishin.com, the website in the bottom of our screen, and you can check out the What Chaos line of shirts, hoodies, hats, and more. Okay, are you ready?
Real quick, that's kind of a funny small world thing. Those Just Dishin guys, it's Nick and Matthew. They effectively kind of really got off the ground about 2.5 years ago, and I remember covering them quite a bit in Buffalo. So it's kind of funny to see them now having sponsored spots on our thing. Yeah,
Nice,
good for them.
Nice little collab from some guys that Sean knows.
Yeah.
See, I told you, he's got his tentacles in all avenues.
He's all over.
All
He's just never here, but he's all over everywhere else.
Well, if we keep getting the super chats, I imagine at some point it'll add up to getting a flight to get Sean down here, and we can have him do some in-person shows and all that. It'll be fun. All right, let's go to the damn Discord channel. Remember, you have to be a diehard to access the Discord channel, and so another great reason to subscribe, along with free T-shirts and merchandise discounts and access to Sean's articles and Sam's that are behind the DLS diehard paywall. Let's get to it, John. First one, Chase says, who is the guy you hated to play against but respected the most?
Boy, there'd be a few of them, but there's one I talk about quite a bit, was Pat Verbeek. And there were Kenny Linsman back in the day, played for the Bruins, and I'm sure John remembers him. There were the Stastnys in Quebec. Go ahead. You want to say something about Linsman? The rat. I think that to be able to play with a guy like Beaker and have that little ball of hate on your team versus having to play against him, and he'd stick you between the legs and in the back, and he'd run you, and then he'd skate away, and you could never catch him, and he was just that kind of guy. So my answer would be Pat Verbeek. I played with a guy, Claude Lemieux, and I didn't play against him, but I respected Pepe nickname, the way that he played the game. Everybody in the league hated him, and he was actually dressed out like an armadillo after everybody. His pads everywhere. But
is that why he skated with that sort of hunch to him?
No, that's how he is.
Just his style.
That's his style. He's just kind of he walks like that too. Now he's an agent and everything like that. But no, that was the way Claude played. But again, the first guy that comes to mind is Pat Verbeek.
All right, the next one in the Discord is from T Farmer. Who did you fight that was the most memorable? Why? And did you win?
No, I didn't. And it was a big Russian in Detroit, big young kid. I don't remember his name. And he ran one of our guys.
It wasn't Konstantinov, was it?
No, it wasn't him. It was, if you said it, I would remember. But
Sean, you want to guess Russian Detroit?
Big Russian in Detroit near the end of my career. So it would have been
late 90s?
Late 90s. But anyway, he had run. You got a name there, Sean?
I'm thinking.
Okay. That's a no.
No, I don't.
This guy clearly isn't Russian, but I'm seeing a G Gallant on Detroit at the end of your
That's
career.
Gerald Gallant, and he's French. He's not Russian.
Yeah.
Oh my
I
God.
prefaced that by saying I don't think he's Russian. Maybe your mind was elsewhere, as it often is.
What was the question again?
Who did you were fighting and you lost,
No.
but it was most memorable?
Probert, unfortunately. I did for somebody else, but the big Russian, he ran, I think it was Brent Gilchrist, and he ran him from behind in Detroit. And, again, I think that was my second to last year, and he was probably 22 years old, and I went nowhere but down. And so that was not a pleasant one. And like I said, Probert kind of ragdolled me too. And that was another instance where you're kind of standing there, and when something happens on the ice to one of your teammates, and like Shane Churla's not there, or Chris Nyland wasn't there, or Darian Hatcher wasn't there.
This guy, was it?
What's his name?
Is that him? Jan Gulobovsky?
That's not him.
6'4", 209?
No, this guy was
guess.
bigger. No.
He's bigger than that?
Well, he sure felt like it. I mean,
is it Andrei Nazarov?
that's it.
So he's on
Nazarov.
San Jose.
But did he play in Detroit?
No, it says the fight that you guys had against each other was
Oh,
when he
I
was
don't
on
even
San
think
Jose.
I'm looking
He
at
never played in Detroit?
I could have looked at hockey fights.
let
That
me
would have been
check.
faster than just guessing random Russian Detroit players.
No.
That was smart.
That was him. He got a big name. He was a big
Nazarov's
boy.
a big guy.
He
Yeah.
was big.
Yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
I
found
felt
you-
like
I
a
found-
little small person.
I don't think he ever played for the Red Wings.
Well, maybe it was San Jose. I don't know. Like I said, I don't remember anything about it except I went down hard. Yeah, but the one that bothered me, I will tell. There's one I didn't fight. Was Clark Gillies on the island.
Oh.
Yeah, and Clarky was a big boy, and it was my second year. I don't even know what year it was, but anyways, I was running around a little bit, and on a face-off, Clarky came up to me on a face-off in our zone, and he just kind of stared at me. I was bent over, and I can feel him staring at me. I could just see it, and I knew why he was there. And he says to me, "Hey, kid." And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You want to get your feet wet?" I said, "Nope." and so they dropped the puck. It was a nice, clean breakout, and Luds went off the ice. I wasn't ready to fight Clark Gillies. So
Did he say anything to you later for saying no?
no, I talked to him out like it was a year or so later, and we played against him quite a bit, or not quite a bit, but enough to get to know him. And he unfortunately passed away, but one of the nicest guys on the planet. And he, and again, it was just these guys. Like I played with one of the toughest guys ever, I think, in Chris Nyland. And Nux had no problem fighting anybody. And he was an American. I was the only other American on the team in Montreal. And so he kind of took me under his wing, which not sure if that turned out good or bad. But anyway, so you end up being, good buddies with those guys. My favorite of all time is Charles. Shane Churla. Charles and I were roommates for, I don't know, 5-6 years or something like that. That didn't, probably that was a bad move.
I just looked up Clark Gillies because I wanted to look at something really quick. He was listed according here as 6'3", 210. He's a big guy, but what really stands out to me is that he never had triple-digit penalty minutes in a regular season.
Nobody wanted to fight him.
That's incredible. Like a lot of those guys had 200-300 minutes, especially back in the day.
Well,
he had a lot
how many
of points.
years did he play with Mike Bossy? Well, that would take you a long time.
It would take me a little while.
But I mean, it's very similar to Semenko and Gretz.
Yeah.
I one quick thing that I was just, because I was looking through Lud's hockeyfights.com profile and all of this, and unfortunately they don't have the full video comp there, but Luds, you got in a fight in the Stanley Cup final in '86?
Don't know. I don't know.
Well, you did.
I don't remember fighting Nazarov either.
Yeah.
Who left? Even though I knew his name, didn't know his name either. What?
Yeah.
Who was it?
Poplinski. Who was that? Let's see.
That
Jim
had to be against
Poplinski.
Calgary then.
Yeah, it was game
Yeah.
1 of the 86 final.
Yeah, Pepper. Yeah, and see, he's another big guy, big, long, lanky, strong.
You seem to have a type.
He has. Well, it's not good when you pick on little
That's
guys.
the first part of your career, actually.
Yeah.
If you're going by the website.
Yeah, no. So yeah, the bad move was Proby, and that was when he was,
Yeah.
kind of out there.
All right,
And,
I want to get into more, but before we do, I have one of my own. John, do you have that photo that I sent you earlier from Twitter?
Yes.
Okay. This is a new offering at United Center for Blackhawks and Bulls games. It's a 24-ounce beer hockey stick. And somebody sent this to me, and it made me laugh. And then I said, I got to show this to Luds. Luddy, what are your first thoughts about a plastic hockey stick filled with 24 ounces of beer at a hockey game?
I'd have played with that. I might have scored a couple goals in my career if I could have played with that thing. I wish I had about 10 of those that I could hang up in my house for all my buddies when they come over. I think it's very cool. I love it. It looks like a little Christmas thing, though.
It does. It looks a little bit like an
How much do you
inverted
think they
candy
charge
cane.
for that thing?
Oh.
In Chicago?
Sean, what's your guess? Is it under or over $20?
Over.
Over for sure. I was going to go.
I'm thinking like in the 30s. Can we Google that?
Yeah,
thing? Can somebody out there get on that?
Yeah.
Sean?
Like I was thinking.
What's it called? Is there a name for it?
It's just the 24-ounce hockey stick of beer.
24
We need
ounces.
to get a couple of them in here.
I mean, 24 ounces is 2 cans, right?
Yeah,
Two
it's
12-ounce
24 ounces
cans.
of
Well,
beer.
I don't know.
For math. I know.
That actually looks more than 22 cans.
It's massive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it is pretty skinny, so that volume thing. But yeah, that would be.
If you're getting that thing for under $30,
You get to keep that thing?
Oh, I think so. Then what do you?
Yeah.
Then you can refill it when you take. It's like a souvenir cup.
Yeah. So you think that's only $20?
No, I'm saying it's over. I think it's over.
If it's under 30, I'll be stunned.
I would
It's got to
too.
be over.
I would
yeah,
too.
it's got to be over $30.
My biggest complaint about this is not the fact that it's a hockey stick that looks a little bit like a candy cane. It's, Sean, I don't know if this makes me sound soft or not, but I like beer cold. Well, that thing is 2 beers in one, basically. There's no way that stays cold by the time you finish that thing unless you shotgun that.
You can't drink 2 beers in like 4 or 5 minutes?
I mean, yeah, but
Okay, well, that's all that would take.
but it doesn't mean I want to. I could probably chug the whole thing, but it doesn't mean I would enjoy it.
Oh, you're like a sociable drinker.
I just am at a hockey game. I might want it to stay cold for a little while.
Oh,
feel
we
like
do
it
it.
would
We
just
do
get-
it for sport.
Yeah, well, there's a different
this is
time and place
this
for
is a
that.
different league.
If that's the case, we need a funnel and some tube.
Yeah, I know.
So,
Beer bong.
all right. So now that John is continuing to look up the prices, should we go to our next Discord?
Yeah, so I actually just messaged the CHGO people on Slack to see if they knew if they
So
can get
we'll
back to
see
me
if we can
before the
follow
show
up on
ends.
that.
Okay, so this might kill the rest of our time, but this is my favorite Ask Luds Anything question we've ever gotten. And
This can't be good.
No pressure.
so
No
we-
pressure.
it might require some explanation, but we'll go with the question first.
All right, here it is. Holy cow. It looks like Aaliyah Emily, if I'm going to
We'll go with that.
together. Luds, I'm not sure what you have seen about the recent trend in books, but the girlies want to know your thoughts on the explosion of hockey romance books and how the league can capitalize on this and grow their audience.
I don't read, first off. I've never read whatever book this is.
No,
Is it
this
an
a
audio version?
No. Okay. I don't know all the details, but I do know that there is a subset of
What
fiction.
is a subset?
It's like a genre.
I
Okay?
think
There's
I think I got this one, Owen.
okay, go
Want
ahead,
me to
John.
try it? So essentially, are you aware of the term fan fiction, Luds?
No.
It's fan fiction is when people write stories about real people, but they write.
Why
fake
is
stories
everybody
about the
laughing about
people.
this but me?
So
because I don't know
laughing
fan
because
fiction.
of all the ways to explain it to
this
him,
whole
you went with fan
show is
fiction.
fiction.
But it usually takes on a sexual tone. So this
Now you got my
genre
interest.
for
Go ahead.
hockey. So people will write these stories about real hockey players, but because of copyright reasons, they'll be kind of vague about it. But like there was one, for example, that I believe had to do with the Rangers players last year, and they were able to refer to a opposing player as quote Marchand, but they didn't say Brad, so they could get away with it.
Okay.
So they're basically it's illusions for real people. But the reason it blew up in the NHL. And Sean, if you can do a better job retelling the Kraken story, feel free to take the reins from me.
The Kraken,
But the reason why this blew up in the NHL last
Oh, wait,
season,
now Sean doesn't even want to go there.
so what happened last season with the Kraken Luds is that their social media manager was taking videos of their players walking into the arena all dressed up and looking all sexy and everything, and making these edits.
Well,
That
who's saying they're sexy? First off,
everyone was, including the wife of the player involved, which was Alexander.
They're the ones that
Wenberg.
probably dressed them.
Yeah. So basically, the social media manager was uploading these videos to TikTok, and on TikTok there was a community that basically loves this sort of literature. Like, they're really into hockey, like sexualizing players. And
I'm sorry,
stories.
I'm distracted by Sean over here laughing and covering his face up.
But so what ended up happening with the Kraken is that Alexander Wenberg's wife was not happy about it, and they put out a statement, and then the social media manager got fired, and it was a very big story. So how do you feel about romance books? Hockey player.
How do you
fanfic?
think I feel?
There's got to be one about there. They have these for every player in like every sport. There has to be a Luds one. This is a very
no way.
I swear
There's
to God,
no Craig Ludwig hockey romance novel.
Well, there's about to be.
if
there is a song though. Some guy in Montreal sang a Ludwig song.
Did he really?
These idiots of ours on our team, they play it on the bus on their big boom boxes too.
Oh,
yeah,
my
it's
God.
awful. And then my kids found out about it. Sean, can you comment on this romance stuff? Because I honestly know nothing about it. And I just saw the expression on your face. I want to hear it. Who? And by the way, is Ali Mealy?
I think it's.
Is that who wrote the book or whatever it is?
No, she's just a Discord. She's.
I think
diehard.
that's just the handle is Aaliyah Emily.
Aaliyah.
By the way, I love the fact that she posted this. Was it? We have a lot of guys on Die Hard, but we are a equal opportunity damn Discord. So the ladies, please give Luddy the questions too.
Oh, you can tell I'm really looking forward to all of them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Don't let his tough facade
can we
fool
let
you.
Sean tell? Maybe he can explain it better than you two did.
I don't think he wants to. Go ahead, Sean.
No, but I mean the bigger thing about the Wenberg Seattle thing was Wenberg. The book wasn't about Wenberg, but a lot of the readership community decided Wenberg fit the character for the book, I believe was my understanding of it. So they decided, okay, Alexander Wenberg is going to be whatever is going to be the living embodiment of this character from a romance novel. And so the Kraken originally leaned heavily into this quite a bit. And in doing so, they actually invited a couple people from, I believe the term is book talk or something like that. Yep. Like there's a whole, yes, thank you.
He's playing like he's not sure about this. He knows all about it.
John knows
he's
all
acting
about
like
this.
he doesn't know.
Yeah. And so then essentially as this was all going along, Wenberg started getting more and more comments about how attractive he was from women and everything like that, and eventually got to the point where it crossed a line for the Wenberg family, and they asked for the team kind of pushing it further did not help. So,
and then I'm guessing his wife asked for a trade or something.
Well, doesn't he play for San Jose now?
He just moved up the road a little ways.
Less people read there, I guess. So
yeah.
By the way, for all those angry viewers in San Jose, we'll send you Sean's email address afterwards.
No, San Jose is pretty well read, actually, I'm sure.
Well, by the way, he did end up getting traded to the Rangers last year at the deadline. And then
him and Henrik are probably out there fashioning it up.
Oh, I would assume so. I mean, Henrik has got great hair.
Oh,
suits.
He's a dude, man.
Yeah, he's the king.
Yeah, they love him.
See how we got away from the books? Is that how we're going to end today, John, or are we going to do?
But he's got a smirk on his face.
I think, did we hit Ardell's super chat already? By the way.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Okay,
just
cool.
we maybe one more thing.
Didn't you say we'll get to it later?
We talked about the power play stuff, but one of the parts about it he did say was the lack of skating at the blue line. Do we lack a crab walker or a penetrator? We're not talking about hockey romance again. But thank you. I gotta laugh. That's it. I'm out. I'm done. Thanks. See ya.
Roll credits.
We'll see you tomorrow afternoon.
But honestly, yeah, so once in a while I'll get him to laugh. But no, in all seriousness, I can't even. I think that's it. No. Crab walker. So that's something that John Klingberg was really good at. He used to walk the blue line. Nobody's interested. Thank you. We'll be here tomorrow, 2:15 pregame show. And the game's at 3 o'clock. We're out. See ya.
Done.
Crab walking.
We all silly like the mayor.